listening to Xposed Living Be Ageless, the podcast where we drop the masks, flip the script, and talk real life, real love, and real leadership unfiltered. I'm Stacey Van Thune, coach, speaker, entrepreneur, and founder of the Xposed Living movement that's redefining what it means to live, lead, and grow at any age. We talk identity, reinvention, belief, and freedom from the bedroom to the boardroom. Yes, we go there. This is not about staying young. This is about waking up. So if you're done with the shoulds and craving more fun, more freedom, more truth, more you, then grab your favorite drink, your bestie, maybe your journal. It's time. Let's get exposed. Welcome back. Today on Xposed Living, I'm sitting down with someone whose professional track record speaks for itself. Not one, but a two-time TEDx speaker, best-selling author, executive coach, and a woman who has shaped leaders for nearly 3 decades. But here's what I want you to know. Today is more than her bio, more than the accolades. Today is about the woman behind all of that. The lessons she's learned along the way, the moments she questioned herself, the beliefs she had to expose and let go in order to rise. This is a part of leadership we don't always see or read about. It's the truth behind the title. It's what Xposed Living is all about. And that's why I wanted Debra on this show, because she's built a powerful body of work, but also has a powerful story that shaped it. So Debra, welcome to Xposed Living, where we ditch the scripts and get real about what it actually takes and looks like for you to become the person you are today.
Wow. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be on your show. It's very exciting. I've watched some of the interviews you've done, and I love the meatiness and the depth that you go into with people. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. And if anyone hasn't and isn't aware, she's also a podcast host, The Millionaire Woman. We had an incredible conversation I guess even just about a month ago now. And we can carry on. Honestly, Debra and I could talk for hours. So I'm grateful and honored that you said yes. Ready to dive in?
You bet. Let's do it.
All right. So I have a question, Debra. As someone with certifications, credentials, I know you put a lot into the study of the work that you do. What's the one thing that actually moved your life or your career that you feel moved it forward the most to date?
Today, wow, that's a great question. You know, one of the biggest things that helped me was getting out of my own way. Seriously.
All right.
I think what happens is you start questioning whether or not you should be the person doing it. So you can move into self-doubt. You can move into that inner critic saying, but you've never done this before. And the fact that you didn't do it before doesn't mean you're not able to do something. It's actually should be exciting, like what's possible for me. So when I started to get away from paying attention to that inner voice that's trying to keep me safe, because that's what it's attempting to do, is wanting to keep me safe, is when I started to do my due diligence, when I started questioning the fear, when I started saying, wow, what's the worst thing that could happen? And then also looking at what's the best thing that could happen and putting my focus and attention where the best thing was. I started shifting everything, because then I started coming from a place of not just affirmation of saying, I am this, or I am becoming this. I'm like, the person I want to become, what is it that I need to embody? What qualities, what actions do I need to take to be that person? So I operate more from a question of curiosity than it is about a statement.
Give me the shivers. Honestly, I love that. And I think that isn't it wild when even you were responding, you say, I went to what's the worst that can happen? But if you didn't have that awareness of that question, you can get stuck in there.
Yeah. And when you have the worst that can happen, as you start to dissect it a little bit, you realize what's the likelihood that this is even going to happen?
Great.
And majority of the time, the things that we fear, they don't happen. But you disempower that thought as soon as you start asking questions of it.
Oh, good. I agree with you. And you see that, or do you see that with a lot of the clients that you work with and stuff, is people starting though because I agree, a lot of this stuff doesn't necessarily happen, but we almost foreshadow problems
And so we're thinking of like what could happen and what could go worse than what really, as you had indicated, and where you start to live from, well, what could happen for the good? Like, why do you think that happens?
Well, I think, as growing up, where it's like, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? The protective figures around us. And I think we have this conditioning of all the what ifs, but it's from the what if the worst case scenario. Yeah, I'm aware of the worst case scenario. I don't put my energy there. It's like, okay, it's not that I'm going in blind. I have this awareness, but what will it help support me in making my decisions? Not from a place of fear, because I don't want to operate from a place of fear. I want to operate from a place of love and curiosity and things that will work it out. And one of the things that came up for me more than anything is realizing, even if I have a question or a decision to make, so often with clients that I work with, we get stuck on this one big decision, this one question I want to ask, and forgetting that it only leads to more questions and more decisions. So it's not a definite yes or no. It is, what do I need to learn to help me be more clear on what it is that I want and ensuring that it's in alignment with who I want to be? Because when we operate from fear, we don't make the choices that resonate and align with our values.
I'm curious, when you were in there, because I think we've all been stuck in that spot, what was one of your biggest fears that you had and had to?
I think my biggest fear, and this is a common human nature one, is, could I handle the worst case scenario? And, I think what happens is, we have the fear of embarrassment, fear of failure, fear of what judgment, what people will think. But of all those fears, at the end of the day, could I handle any of those that may be projected on me or I give myself? And it's like, at the end of the day, I still rise. I still get up and I can continue on because I'm the person looking at myself in the mirror. So can I handle it? It might take me off my feet for, a few days, and it could take longer. But the fact that I'm putting effort into standing up and moving forward again, that is the part that really shifts us from that fear, because, then you'll be like, well, that wasn't so bad. I had and this is a very simple analogy. I had a dental implant that ended up having to come out after many, many years. And I went back to go get it placed, and they picked up on my little bit of my apprehension. I'm like, it's going to be what it's going to be. And she's like, remember when it got taken out? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, within that time frame, you'll be done and you won't even know it. So I'm laying there and they're like, okay, you're finished. And I'm like, oh, well, that was easy. So we build up in our minds how this fear is going to be, of what could happen, that I'm going to fail, I'm going to lose all these things. And if I focus on that, I can guarantee that can happen. But if I focus on, what am I going to choose? Because we're all blessed with choice. If people haven't read it, The Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, everyone needs to know that at the end of the day, we all still have choice. And we can operate from a place of intention.
I love that you bring up that book. I know that you're a great reader. And in that book, you say, they can take anything away from me, but the one thing that they can't take away from me is my mind. Right. And the choices I make. And so often I think we live in this victim world. And I say that with love, because we've all been there. It's not like it's, but we can't change what we're not willing to acknowledge, right? And so how I say, well, it's because of this that I feel this way, or it's because of that I feel this way. And here he is in a concentration camp in the worst of all conditions. And he's saying, I still get to choose how I feel and show up in these days. And there's like so much, like you said, meaning in that. And kind of like, when I'm sharing this, what are you thinking? Like, I know you have something to say, I feel.
Well, I'm thinking about, actually, whenever I think of the book itself, I was actually at the gym listening to it on audio while working out. And I'm in the middle of gym with, tears running down my face because of the extreme conditions. And sometimes when I get into a place where I was like, whoa, this is heavy, I have to connect with that space of that book. Because if someone brings it up, I'm like, oh, I can shift like this, because I remind myself that the conditions that someone is in, the circumstance you are, does not define who you are. It is a matter of saying, this is what I'm choosing in this moment. It might not be pretty. It could be actually quite messy right now, but I am trusting that everything will evolve for a greater purpose. That it's not being in that victim of it's happening to me, but shifting to, what can I see in this that is for me to move forward? And who am I becoming in the process?
Oh, good. And, and let's take that into your own story, because there was a time before you're doing what you're doing now that you're in healthcare.
Mhm.
And a long
Yes.
time of that, right? And I had the identity of doing what you're doing in healthcare and then feeling this pull to do something else. So even with that, like, just because I've been doing this forever doesn't mean that I can't do something else. And I'm curious, when you made that decision to go outside of that, was there, like, what part of your identity or your belief did you potentially cling to for too long that kept you there, or even had to let go to let you move past that?
Oh, such a great question. So it was about almost 15 years ago when I started on the journey of shifting that identity, not even knowing that that's what was happening, right? I had learned about executive coaching. I had not known about it. I had transitioned from frontline to being in management, and I was introduced to coaching, and I was like, wow, this is fascinating. That I get to work with leaders. I can ask questions because I was always curious and, sometimes too curious, I guess, but to learn how to support others in a way that they can be empowered themselves. I thought this was the best thing ever. So I started my coaching business on the side. And then I was introduced to a certification through work and decided to dive in. And as I grew and progressed and started really embodying being the coach, I realized that people around me that would say, you've started to outgrow this space. And there was a time when I was about to resign and found out that my family, my environment did not support it. And I chose not to move forward and I had lost, there was a period of self-betrayal that I had to rebuild my confidence and everything, because I'm like, how do they not think I'm going to be successful and all these things? And I love on them because they're on their own journey. I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus or anything like that, because I recognize they have their own path of self-discovery. They just don't understand mine. And I am following my calling. And I know that there was a time that I said, okay, fine. I quit. I'm not going to do this coaching thing anymore. And the tears flowed from my eyes for 2 days straight. I could not stop them. And as soon as I said, no, now is not the time to quit, it was just like, boom, done, it stopped. So in that moment, it reminded me that, no, this is what I've been called to do. And I'm not stopping at any cost, because I know the people I've helped and served, and I've seen the transformation that occurs in their lives. But as I've grown on this journey, at the tail end of COVID, we were like, oh, COVID's lifting, it's not gone, but it was lifting. The pressures of the whole system of the pandemic were lifting. And I got my third booster. A week later, I got COVID. Within a period of 6 months, I had extreme sensitivity to light, sleeping in my basement with sunglasses. Nobody could turn lights on in my house. I couldn't walk outside. I've sprained ankles attempting to walking off curbs because my eyes would close. Developed a rare neurological eye condition. And again, it throws your identity off. And you're like, so who's going to want me now? And I really went from the outside appearance, but not from the inside. I went from, my eyes are spasming. People are staring at me. I'm walking around with sunglasses on my eyes, and I had times that I was in isolation. Like, I did not want to be around people because I thought they're going to just be staring at me. At one point, I even said I must look like a monster, and it was horrible to even think those things to myself. And knowing that I was really in a place of defining my worth and value. And now I at the end of the long-term disability and everything that came up, I had one of the practitioners said to me, she says, Deb, I know what you're capable. You've done all these things, and thanks so much for sharing all the achievements and accomplishments. Those are things I've done, and I want to embody them in who I am, not just the certificates of the things behind my name, but who did I become in the process? That's more important to me than anything. But this one practitioner said to me, she goes, I don't want you to be labeled as unfit to work. And I looked at her with a smile, and I already knew inside, but I said, just give me until next week when I come back for my last session to tell you what my decision is. And I walked in and she said, so? I said, I'm taking it in my own hands. And I resigned, and I have not looked back. I resigned. I took a plane and I flew to Halifax. I facilitated at a conference. I went on vacation, started my master's in executive coaching, and I have not looked back since. And it has been so liberating, and knowing that maybe it wasn't on my time, maybe it isn't in the perfect circumstance, but when you feel called for something bigger than yourself, we have to trust that the timing will evolve on its own. And I don't even know how to describe that feeling to you. It's truly an inner knowing that I need to stay on this path because this is what I truly feel called to do. Until there's something that redirects me again to say, this is where I need to be, or an opportunity that presents itself that's taking me in a different direction, I am going to trust this path and feel guided to where I need to be. Gone are the days of, I need to chase this opportunity. No, I investigate opportunities. I inquire about opportunities. I put myself out there for opportunities, but the right ones always fit. And it's about learning that if I trust the timing of when things were, because in hindsight, if we were to look back and I resigned at that time, not knowing that a pandemic was going to be hitting us, who knows what would have happened, because I could have been pulled right back into that same environment because of my skill set. Anywhere in that environment, because of having the nursing background, they were pulling people who have retired, people who've changed their careers just to be in that support system. So I'm trusting that the timing is exactly where it needs to be now. And I am loving every minute. Is there challenges? Absolutely. But I look at them that now I get to, not that I have to, I get to do it because I want to do it.
I love that. And I love how you kind of have brought us full circle to say, we started talking about a lot about fear.
Mm.
And what I'm hearing from you saying is like, I leaned into it and I had faith that this inner knowing was something greater than me. And if I stay true to it and I don't look at today's results, but like trust this and continue to step forward, that like, so it shall be.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's meant to be, it shall be. And it's what I learned through my clients, I learned from myself. When I fail to keep promises to myself, I also break trust with myself. So it is so important you can give yourself grace, but if you have something on your heart that needs to get done, you create some non-negotiables, or you make sure if you're shifting something in your calendar from one day to another, that it still gets done within that week or within a 3-day time frame, because otherwise you're abandoning yourself. And when you abandon yourself, you lose confidence. And it doesn't happen overnight. It is like going to go chop a big tree, and we're chopping things down by breaking these promises. And then eventually it tips, and then we're like, oh, I feel broken. Well, it's because we stopped keeping promises to ourselves. We started abandoning what our true knowing has been.
Yeah. And it's as easy as, it's the same with like, do you negotiate with yourself when your alarm clock gets up? Like some people don't understand, because they're like, it's just that I press snooze. And I've been guilty of it, right? And
Sure,
like, well,
me too.
if I'm not going to even keep the promise to myself to wake up at the time that I want, when I go for a goal that's greater than I don't know how to do, my inner self's like, shit, you couldn't even wake up when you wanted to do it. Like, how are you going to do this?
Yeah.
You know, and I love that you do, like, something I really admire about you, and I see it, is that you get an idea and you take action. And I think that this is where so many of us, and I'm curious to get your thoughts around leadership with this, is that they'll take the action once they know that the output that they want is guaranteed. And what I
Yes.
mean,
Yeah.
and so they're waiting for this like results to show, and then I'll be it. And what you've demonstrated is like, no, you've got to be it before the results and have that faith that it will. And then continue to, like, even when you incur those challenges, say, no, there's still learning in there. There's something for me to grow into in order to get it. So what is it? Right? Would you say that, like, being curious is one of your greatest skill sets that's helped you?
Oh, 100%. I wrote a book on the subject. But
Share.
being curious, I think, is not valued enough. That if we ask the question, because what I've learned, and, I went on a retreat to Croatia in April of this year. And the facilitator, she says, you guys are all so brave for coming here. And I sat there thinking, okay, I know her a little bit. I'm like, I didn't necessarily see myself as brave. But then I looked around the room and started to get to know people. And I was just like, wow, this is kind of a brave thing. But then I realized that's how I operate. Like you said, I pick something, I go. Not always necessarily thinking every single moment through, because if I did, I'd catch myself in overthinking.
Right.
Or
Planning to
I'd
plan.
get caught up in fear,
Yeah.
right? So if I see something, and this is what I have learned, and again, I don't have the exact person who said it, and you might know, but you need to believe that you can achieve it before you see it happen. And so many people want to have the evidence first that they're going to be successful. But when you think about Thomas Edison and 999 fails to get the mastery of the light bulb, it is all those attempts that gave him feedback from the environment, to gave him information, have what to change to actually develop something that worked. So if I stop because I just can't see it for myself, then I don't have the belief in myself to figure it out. And it is truly about figuring it out. With this eye condition, it's rare, right? So they have one course of treatment, Botox to your eyelids every 3 months for the rest of your life. And then if that doesn't work, maybe we'll take a muscle out of your eye and do these other things. That's fine for anyone who chooses that. I am not saying anything about people's choice, but my choice was, I attempted it once. I'm like, it's not working. And I realized there's titration and all that. But I thought there's got to be another way. So in my mind, every single person, we're all looking, we could be looking for this cookie cutter approach. But guess what? It's not going to work, because you need to find your way. You're finding a way, but it's going to be your way. People who resonate with you, career paths that intrigue you, that interest you, because I could be brilliant and have all the degrees and all the paperwork and say, hey, I'm going to go work for Tesla, I'm going to go work for NASA. But if it's not interesting to me, what's the point? Right? So you want to really dive into things that are interesting to you and allow them to help lead you. And I get excited, and you know this about me, Stacey, whenever we're in an event together, it's like, who are we going to meet? You never know where you're being led, the people you'll meet, the places you go, and what opportunities will arise just from the connections you have.
When you're talking about that end part, it's like you're one conversation away from changing your life. It could be one idea, one person that could change your life forever, and talking about that being ready to receive, the quote that comes always to my mind, and I repeat it to myself often, is like, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. That there's something greater still happening that we can't, see or, understand with our senses. But again, leaning into that Everything's happening to me for a reason. There's something greater and grander than just my own way, my own path, my trying to hold control of it. And if it doesn't happen in the way that I want it, when that I want it, then it's not for me. And you do such an excellent job at showing that like, you know what? Just because this path didn't work didn't mean that it wasn't for me. It was me. What did I learn from this? Now I pivot. Now I grow. Like, I think all these things are like catchphrases that people say, but to actually put them into action is more than just knowing it, but believing it. And I admire you for that, because I think it's something that you do so well.
Yeah. And actually, believe is my life word. Like, I've chosen it as my life word. So there's that movie, I know Morgan Freeman's in it. I think it's the Noah's Ark one.
Okay.
But Morgan Freeman, there's a reel that's out there that says, if God wanted to give you patience, you think he's just going to hand you patience, or is he going to give you an opportunity to be patient?
That's right.
So sometimes I sit back and say, okay, if I want to choose to believe, you're going to give me opportunities where I had to increase the belief within myself. And this is just a great example. Stacey knows, and because I've been following her journey with her training for her Ironman. But for me, I had not done a triathlon in 10 years. And then with this eye condition, I thought it was never going to be an opportunity for me again. And this year I did a sprint triathlon, concerned with, riding my bike, my eyes closed and hitting a ditch. And none of the things that I feared happened. I finished. I was the most proud I've ever been in my life. And was it perfect? Absolutely not. The weather was raining, miserable puddles. It was messy. But when I finished, that feeling of you doing something that you never thought you could ever do again. Wow. Now I just remind myself is nothing's going to stop me from anything.
Yeah, I was like I just hear Sia singing, I'm unstoppable. So good, Debra. When we wrap this up, because honestly I could chat with you forever, I typically like to answer or ask 5 one-answered questions. Slightly different than yours. If you're listening to The Millionaire Woman, she does ask 2 questions to everybody at the end of the show. So you got to tune in to find out what those questions are. But here's my first of 5 for you. You ready?
You bet.
Okay. What is one belief that you've outgrown?
One belief I have outgrown is that I'm the same version of myself that I looked back 10 years ago. Because when this first happened, I look back and I'm like, I miss her. I want to be her again. And now I'm at a place of, I love this. And I can't wait to see who I'm becoming instead of focusing on who I once was.
So good. Is there a habit or a practice that is a non-negotiable in your day?
I would say it has been journaling. But the non-negotiable is really about focusing on who are you wanting to be today? That's the question, being very intentional. How am I going to show up?
Good. Is there one area in your life that you still continue to work on? Like what's your area of focus right now to get to that next level of becoming for yourself?
Right now, because with the illness or the condition, it really slowed me down. So I have had to learn how to embrace the slowing down part, but also now reconnecting with those parts of me that I really admired. I've hired a personal trainer and getting back to feeling strong physically. So that probably has been my number one focus of physical strength, because with that, I know that I'm building mental strength at the same time.
What does living an exposed life mean to you?
Not being afraid to share your vulnerabilities. It's not like you're sharing them to kind of vomit on people to say, this is the crap that's going on. But it's more of, this could be the crap that's going on. But what can I do about it that I have choice, that I have intention? And how can I make this mess my message and make it more beautiful?
Thank you. And of course, the last one is, what is new and going on in your world, and how do people get a hold of you if they want more Debra in their lives?
Okay. Well, what's new and powerful, as we talked about slowing down, my colleague Steph and I are hosting a retreat in Sorrento, Italy in May 2026 from the 10th to the 14th, including the Amalfi Coast, Positano, and some real experience. It's called La Vita Lenta. It is the art of slowing down, the sweet life of slowing down the Italian way, where we are going to showcase not only a curated experience, but to really embrace that slowing down process to bring out the best of yourself. You can reach me on my website, social media handles. Everything's labeled as Debra Kasowski. My website is debrakasowski.com. Just for the spelling, it is DebraKasowski.com. And reach out to me on social media, and I would be happy to connect with anyone listening to the show if they want to learn more about my journey.
I love it. And your podcast, Millionaire Woman?
Yep. The Millionaire Woman show is 9.5 years in, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, your favorite podcast player. You will find it. And Stacey's on there. We had an awesome interview, so make sure you check it out. I have authors, speakers, people of all life experiences, plus solo episodes.
So good. All of Debra's contact information will be on the show notes. So if you miss any of that right now, it's not gone. You can find it in the show notes. And I just want to say a huge thank you, Debra, for showing up with so much honesty and your vulnerability today. You are a leader by example. The conversation is exactly what Xposed Living is all about, to remind us that leadership isn't a title. It's a truth you choose every day. And to stay curious, to lean into that faith, to do as Debra has demonstrated throughout her own career, take a risk on you. There's nobody better to take a risk on than yourself. And if today's conversation cracks something open with you, share it. Tag Debra, tag myself at either Xposed Living or Stacey Van Thun, and tell us the one truth you're ready to lead with. Until next time, live exposed, live bold, live brave, and lead from the person you're becoming. Thanks, Debra.
Thank you so much, Stacey, for having me. This is beautiful.
That's it for today's episode of Xposed Living, Be Ageless. But this is just the beginning. If this episode made you feel something, share it. Tag me. Send it to a friend. Let's start the conversation we can be having all along. No shame, no guilt. Unfiltered, raw, real, exposed. And if you're ready to go deeper, join us inside the Xposed Living Facebook community, where we take this work off the podcast and into real life. Know this, your change starts when your excuses die. Because this life, this one wild, ageless, unforgettable life is waiting on you. This is your time. This is your truth. This is Xposed Living.